Hello, hello.
Yeah, man. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Good evening. How's it going?
Yeah, almost night here.
Yeah,
But yeah, going great, man.
it's
What about you?
it's very early here. It's not even yet 7 a.m. So it's nice and early here.
Yeah, the difference in time keeps us cozy.
Yeah, it makes it tough. I mean, I'm sure it's tough for you guys when you go to push updates, and anyone in the Western world who's going to give you feedback, it's like gets it to you in the middle of the night, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Why aren't you responding to me?"
So the way we work is, uh, I guess we keep working in the daytime, but we stay up till 3 a.m. At least some of us. Just whenever we're patching, basically, just to see if things are all right. So yeah, that's part of our job at that point.
you, you got those gamer hours. Is what you got. Is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. So welcome to come and talk to us. I really appreciate you not only agreeing to do this, but also just being flexible with the time. Sorry about giving you the wrong time. I tried to do. It's one of those situations where I normally tell everyone Eastern time because most folks in the U.S. understand Eastern time and not my weird Mountain time. And then I did a cross translation error from that to your time, so that's where the problem came in. But I really appreciate you being flexible and being willing to hop in and talk to me.
It's still all right, man. Also, Grim, hi.
Yeah, he's in chat, Grim. Grim was really stoked that we're talking to you today because of the. He said that you guys worked together on some stuff, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's on the credits as well.
He is. That's cool.
Yeah.
So let's.
He helped with the animation references.
Okay, I'm trying to do something real fast. I previously when I've done interviews, I've managed to get like your little square on the stream, but I'm suffering.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time with it, guys. I'm not cool like I used to be anymore. So I got to do it manually now. Boop. Don't mind me. Anyway, so obviously you guys are a unique situation. You guys are making games in a country that isn't generally known for its games industry. So
Yeah.
so sort of what's your background in programming and games and everything like that? Are you coming to this fresh? Is this your first go, or have you done other stuff before?
So, while I've worked only by myself for the most of my experience in this sector, um, what I've done is, I guess, for 6 years, I've worked on making gameplay systems throughout, like from other games, basically trying to imitate, seeing if I can actually am capable of doing those kind of things or not. And I guess in a way that was also part of the practice, just to see, for later projects. And yeah, you were right on the fact that, in fact, me just simply stating this would probably give you an idea, which is when Zero Hour did release, and the first time that we did get our revenue coming in from Steam, the government did not know what this money was for.
They didn't know how to tax
So
it.
no, um, so we had to create a new category for video games, and that's, I guess, a good understanding of where we are.
That's super funny. I would have never. I mean, that obviously like that sort of stuff. That's some real ground level stuff. I mean, I think it's really cool
Yeah.
though. What you guys
I
are
guess,
doing.
yeah, in a way, it's sort of lucky because being the first to at least bring it in this country was, and also bringing it with Zero Hour was a huge thing to be proud of, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, you're making games in a niche that it's very well loved, but not necessarily like easy to pull
Yeah,
off, right? It's not like I feel like there's a million places around the world people are making Call of Duty clones and that sort of stuff, but it's not it's also not like it's hard to get tactical games right to get the feeling of realism
yeah,
and slow paced gameplay while still making it fun. So I definitely think
yeah.
I definitely think for your guys' first game from your country, you guys are definitely doing a great job. So sort of walk me through what your vision is for Zero Hour, if you don't mind. Like, where do you want it to be?
Sorry, could you repeat on that? I had
Uh,
to.
yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
What's your vision for 0 hour? Sort of what's when when everything's said and done, what do you want 0 hour to be? Like, what's your vision statement, if you will?
So I guess the way I could explain it in a very uh, straightforward manner would be, uh, so with this update, we really hit that pacing that we were looking for. Like we hit it closer, and that's something that we desired since the beginning of the game, and we didn't really do it that well. And that is something that we are still working on, even with Operation Meghna, that we're making sure that the pacing is perfected with the next update, like as much as possible. And for the future, what we do see is something where we do keep it realistic and grounded, but also at the same time still allow people to play with their friends and then still enjoy the game
Mm-hmm.
for what it is. Yeah.
I thought the inclusion of that casual option for like the co-op game mode, the moment I saw that,
Yeah.
I'm like, they get it. They get it because obviously I play a lot of these kind of games, and one thing I love about 0 hour is it can be sort of, you can be as tight sort of MILSIM as you want with it, with very specific comms and movement or anything like that. Or if you want to, it could be a little bit looser. Toss on casual mode and then just go throw yourselves at the enemies and see what happens, right? And if you care about getting a perfect score, then you're going to do it one way. If you don't care, you just want to pass through the levels, you can do it a different way. And I think that flexibility really makes it an enjoyable game for a variety of gamers, not just the most hardcore tactical gamers, while still appealing to them as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. The inclusion of the casual mode was actually part of. So when we were making, like, let's say recordings, uh, it's not like we're not prone to making mistakes in co-op, and so yeah, there are times that we do get complaints from people who test the game, that we usually, to test out features, they might need to do things that are probably going to give them penalties. So um, a casual mode would be something that would allow them to go through these levels more casually without having them affecting the scores.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I didn't even think about that. The fact that you have to test it out, and you might not you might not be able to do the silly things you're trying to test and still do that. So that makes a lot of sense. But I feel like that's your guys' ethos from an outsider's perspective seems to be that you do something that you think is right, and then you give it to your fans or your players, and your feedback cycle. I don't know how you have that involved in your development or schema or whatever, but your ability to put something out, hear feedback, and then like literally the same day or the next day fix that feedback. I've not seen any other company that's able to do that. Can you speak to sort of how you guys have managed to get that level of responsiveness to your fans?
Okay, so I guess this is due to, for the most part, due to the fact that I did have experience working with projects before. And so I have a habit, and I guess most people who work close to me already know this, where if something is not right in the game, it becomes a certain level of irritation, and uh, my immediate response is, how can I make sure that I can patch this out immediately? And the way we have it set up, that makes it very easy, is I can basically work with my laptop whenever I'm, outside the office, and I can work on the office PC whenever I'm in the office. So what happens is, even if it's, let's say, late at night, if there's something that needs to be fixed, I can just get in my laptop and then fix it, patch it out. So yeah, that kind of flexibility does allow me to patch out things faster, and of course, keeping a closer connection with the community, making sure that every feedback is heard. So what we do is, our moderators do keep track of every suggestion, every bug report, and what we do is, I mean, of course, whenever these kind of things are reported, there's always either a mass report of the same thing, or and in between you kind of lose some of the other reports just because of the you know mass flood. So what happens is they try to keep closer reports of individuals, and what we do is we after the list is done, um, we make sure that which ones are things that we can fix immediately and which ones are things that are going to need other things to be fixed first. And so yeah, we keep it listed that way, and I guess things that are like the easiest to fix, we fix it immediately.
That makes sense. You get the low hanging fruit, especially ones that are really important to your fans.
Yeah.
How big's your team?
At this point, we're around 33, and we plan to expand within this year by a lot.
Wow, that's really big. That's a much bigger team than I expected. Is that like full time or does that include
Yeah, so
contracts?
no, these are only full times. We do have other freelancers. So, for example, our first person animations were freelanced by people who work with Project Rate.
Yep.
And at the moment, we are looking into freelancing work for SFX artists, and that's how we're maintaining the pacing with the update, just to ensure that Operation Meghna can be delivered within August, in the best quality that we can deliver.
Yeah, absolutely. And that makes a lot more sense to me now when we talk about, the size of that team, the ability for you guys to like you said, be responsive, having a wider team rather than just being like 2 or 3 guys, having a wider team probably helps that. How much of that is like what's the breakdown between like programmers, like, I assume you've got like content
Um,
folks and then your QA
we
people.
don't have any other programmer than me,
Oh, okay, so you're the
so
one.
that's the only downside. Yeah, and that's the
Well, stay
downside
stay
and
stay
also
safe,
the
please.
good side. Yeah, yeah. That's like that is one of the things. It is the benefit of this is just because I know every part of the code. If something does happen, I can immediately, understand where or what's going to trigger it. And other than that, if something needs to be recreated, I can at least get an idea at what to look at. Um, but like this is something that happens to most other teams, which is when there's multiple programmers, it gets a lot harder to keep track of, which thing is actually involved in the certain reports.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah,
Yeah, go.
on the other hand, to answer your question further, which is I guess we have one music artist, one SFX artist, and we have two UI artists, and other than that, everyone is 3D artists.
Okay, yeah. So you got a lot of content artists for
Yeah,
making those models.
yeah.
And those the models that you guys use, the design work on this game is something that a lot of people have pointed out anytime I've played it. Like, wow, this game looks great, and they're like, how's this game look so good? Like, people are generally surprised, right? Because a lot of people get used to just asset flips that people don't necessarily put a lot of customization into, right? They just and the price point, like I mentioned earlier, is not like the selling point in this game, but it is a selling point. And I think a lot of people, when they come in and they see a price that's lower than what you expect for average game, they're thinking, oh, it's gonna be a tactical game, asset flip, and then they hop in, they get into the game and they're like, this isn't an asset flip at all. Like, in fact, this is trying new things. It's got, like, it's got stuff like the ability to look around, the ability to buddy tap, the ability to tell people to put down their weapons. Those are all features that might exist in other games, but there's no other game that has all those features. So I think people get shocked when they're like, wait, this is not only a fully fleshed out game, but it's a game that's like moving the genre forward. So I think it's done a great job with that to really separate yourselves out from sort of a crowd of games that came out in the last couple of years, just by putting out a quality product.
Thanks, man. Yeah, to answer the design thing, which is, I guess we benefit from this, which is that most of our 3D artists are architects, and I don't know if you know this already, but Zero Hour is being worked by two different companies, M7 Productions and Atrito. And Atrito is an architectural firm,
Mm.
so that is the main reason why, keeping making the maps and keeping their architectural designs, according to the real life locations is very important to us, and that's why, it's a lot easier for us to handle. And as for the price range, something that we believe is, um, the price point at the moment is perfect for people to, try the game out. And because the thing is, it is a niche audience, and not everyone knows exactly what they might like or what they're looking for. And I guess this allows them to at least give it a try. Um, and yeah, that's something that we find very important. And at this point, because we're still in early access, um, it it helps us a lot in the sense that we get to know more issues that we can fix, um, from more, and we also get more perspectives to things.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Trying to get more folks in while still being able to fund the development.
Yeah.
What I got a couple questions that are getting stood up here, but while I wait for those, one last question I want to ask you about that. What's your plan for early access and leaving early access? Like, what's your sort of I don't know, what's the threshold at which you feel like you guys will have be able to leave early access?
um for us, I guess, one thing, I guess, that stands out before we can leave early access would be the amount of content. um we have a lot that's planned for the future of the game, and y- one of those things is the map pool, and making it like we have plans that at least 20 maps is something that would go very well, because these kind of experiences, um is like, when you play one map, there's always going to be a desire to play another, and having more of those content, is definitely something that we want to do for the game, for the long duration, so that it can stay alive for a longer time.
I do think it's really cool how and the fact that you said that 20 maps is a lot. That's a lot for a game. There's other games that have been out for a long time in the same genre that don't even have that many maps. So that's a really impressive number, and it makes sense why you would have that many architecture designers in it. And I think the system you guys have put in there with where the maps are randomized, but not necessarily the core design of them, but that you've added like randomized placement for enemies, randomized placement for blockages, that sort of stuff. That's a really cool system, and I think the replayability for that is huge. You know, I've played this game with folks that have played it hundreds of hours already, and then we'll get into an area and they'll be like, "Ooh, I actually don't know the way to get through here," you know, and that's not normal. Usually, people master things because there's no changes from run to run. So if you had 20 maps where they were the same every time, then eventually people are going to run out of stuff to do. But I think your randomization system helps a lot in that.
Yeah. The thing is, at the moment, while we do have randomization for for the props in a general way, and I guess right now there's like seven 78 variants for most maps. What we do want to do is make sure that these variants are, broadened up, and there's more variations to make sure that the experience can be, um, extended further. Um, but other than that, with the new maps, what we're doing is, we're keeping things prepared for future editions, like, making sure that procedural prop placement can get a bigger, um, I guess, like, change the map more with each round, is that is one of the things that makes you keep playing the same map and still be okay with it, which is, if each time the experience is very different, you're still going to like the experience. So what that is something that we're looking forward to, which is with the new maps, increasing this procedural prop placement feature, and seeing as to how much more we can add to it.
Well, it's an awesome system, and I think it's really cool, even where it's at now, and I'm excited to see where you guys take it, because every time you've added
Thanks.
something to this game, like I kind of mentioned this on Twitter a while back, every time I see you make a change to this game, it's always for the better. Like I just there's been like it feel like very few missteps, which especially for a younger I wouldn't say younger, but like a company that's kind of coming out with the first game, like your development pipeline, at least towards getting content that people want, has been outstanding. Well, I got a couple questions I should probably ask you, and then we'll talk about your upcoming update, if that's okay.
Sure, man.
Sebson asked, will we be allowed to go alone in a custom match to record footage? And he's talking his main bread and butter is machinimas and cinematic style gameplay.
Yeah. Sorry, could you repeat?
So will they be allowed to go alone into custom matches to record footage in the near future?
So, while that might not be the thing, what we are doing with the Operation Meghna update is, in co-op there would be an option after you die to start free looking, so that you can create cinematics.
Okay, so then your thought, I guess, is that people would go in with one other person, and then
Yeah,
whatever.
it's still going to require another person, but yeah, right now I guess the only way to do it is in custom matches. But at least with co-op, there would be, you're going against AI, and you're still being able to keep up, with if you want to do cinematics. Or I guess this also has the possibility of, if people are, with the last man down, they still have the options to just look around the map if, um, integrating suspects doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's kind of your vision, is that spectator mode is gonna be the main core functionality for making those cinematics, and you'll do it through the co-op mode.
Yeah, at least for now. We do have a lot in mind to, maybe improve this tool, because even for ourselves, because whenever we're making trailers, for the most part, I have to do it in engine. And while, some trailers we did do with the cinematic tool, we really need to improve it a lot more before we can make quality content with it. So yeah, definitely cinematic tool is something that we're looking to improve more. But I'm not sure if that's going to be with this update.
Yeah, that makes sense. But in the future, down the line, you definitely, and that makes sense for you, right? As you try to sell the game outside of the core audience that's already seen it, getting those high fidelity trailers, though you guys are already doing a great job, in my opinion, on them, makes a lot of sense to get a better tool going. Okay, so the next question, this is, I think, a meme question, but when are you guys going to do a Hello Kitty watch?
Possibly not.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Sanrio might have a couple words to say if you put Hello Kitty on a watch. Is Hello Kitty big there? It's really big here.
I guess it was at some point.
Not so much now. I mean, because everyone wants to Hello
Not so
Kitty out
much
their
now.
M4s here. Everyone gets Hello Kitty mags. So,
Yeah.
so I've got a couple questions from other people about watches in general. Do you guys plan to expand your watch collection?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Grim wants to know when you're gonna give him a watch.
Soon.
Soon. There we go. There we go. Okay. Scott Hot Rod, who I know you guys have worked with quite a bit, is a super awesome dude.
Yeah.
He asked how you guys picture a campaign mode in the future, and maybe specifically if you compare it to any sort of campaign that already exists out there. Like, what do you think a campaign would look like for 0 Hour?
So I'm gonna just openly say it, which is we did have plans for a campaign. But the thing that's, at least for now, that we find is, or at least something that we're trying now, is making the co-op into the campaign. So, and that is one of the main reasons with Operation Meghna, we have already announced that we're gonna have cutscenes, which is to add more story elements to the things, and basically turn co-op into campaign.
Okay, yeah. So rather than have like a single player campaign where you just click a button and you're in a campaign, this is the co-op's gonna tell a story now.
Yeah. And I'm already aware that a lot of people are looking um, for AI teammates, and that is, in our schedule of things to work with. Maybe not with this update, but hopefully pretty soon.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, AI teammates. I know it's one of the things that's like one of the harder things to make. I work with the guys that are doing another game, OHD, that you guys are probably aware of, and yeah, it's the
Yeah.
process I saw on the back end of that with trying to get what AI teammates
So
looks like is really tough.
for the moment, that like the thing that we're trying is making sure that the suspect AI itself,
Hmm.
you know, we can make it as smart as possible and maybe make the AIs more lively. And when we think that we got that down, and that's when we want to move forward with teammates, because if we don't get the suspects right and just add on teammates now, I don't think it's gonna be a good experience.
Do you think that you would, if you guys get the AI teammates thing going, do you think you would port that into PvP modes as well, to where you could have you could play against bots in PvP in like a custom match?
Maybe in custom match, but I don't think we would put something like that in quick match.
Definitely not. Yeah. Yes. I was just wondering. I don't know if how much of a use case that is, if people would actually utilize it or not. I'm not sure how easy it is to port the enemy AI into just putting skins on them or whatever.
Yeah.
Cool. So, Grim said, by the way, he's very pleased about how fast updates are coming and how fast the game is progressing. I think we talked about that. Your content delivery pipeline and your ability to react is just head and shoulders above pretty much any of the other developers that are in the space. Um, Grief
Yeah.
Grief Drums asked, also a cool content creator, curious if there would be character or operator customization. Is that something you guys plan in the future?
Yeah, that is something that we do have planned. So we did hire new character artists. So, and we plan to hire more, um, just so that we can make more. Actually, we also have plans to make different gender, just to make sure that we gave female and male options, because I guess there's a lot of requests for that.
I will say, and this is something that is well known within my group. I am a firm believer in that concept of having both male and female characters. I think that's one of the ways that that we've kept not kept women out, but like really made it less appealing for women. You play a game like Arma, and there's literally not even a female model in this giant $60 game. So like that's insane,
Yeah,
right? And so I think the idea of adding female character models, I think is an important step in a game's
yeah,
development, and I think we're seeing a lot more penetration of folks from a variety of different cultures and backgrounds into this genre. If for nothing else, talking about the fact that you're a studio from a company that generally doesn't make, or for a country that generally doesn't make games in general, but especially in the tactical niche. So I think getting more folks from around the world, different races and genders, is I think important for that.
yeah.
Um,
At this point, there's a lot of requests for that, and most of these were from female veterans or female gamers in general, and it makes sense, because I guess most people would like to play, being their character as their own gender.
yeah, makes a lot of sense to me. So
Yeah,
big applause for me and the FOD squad in general. That's a core idea for us, is that games should be accessible for everyone. So I'm glad you're doing that.
yeah,
I'm going to ask a couple more questions, and I know you want to talk about your upcoming updates. So first question is a pretty simple one. What engine is 0 Hour made in? It's Unity, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And which version of Unity are you on right now?
2019.
Okay. Are you guys going to update to the new big whatever?
The 2020,
Yeah.
you mean? Um, we tried actually,
Hmm.
I guess with update part 4. The issue is, I guess that version is still not stable.
Mm.
Um, and along with that, they have a new rendering pipeline, the HDRP, which is also not quite stable. and and just because of those factors, we planned not to continue with it. But yes, while we were working with update part 4, there was a certain phase where we tried to port it
Okay, awesome. So what you're saying is the 2020 build is just as unstable as the year 2020 was.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then, okay, last question before we talk about the update. Kodiak had a specific question about when I assume this is a quick match question. Are certain maps weighted heavier than others? Because he feels like he plays some maps over and over again, and he's never played some other ones.
So the thing with that is, at the moment the maps are very random. To what actually, which map you'd get, um, and it's random in the sense to your each encounter in a map, but due to it really depends with how much players are in the game at the moment to for you to actually get a more stable map pool. Just because, let's say I played in map 2 and then you played in map 3, but in the next match, that means the game is trying to make sure that, to give a new map for everyone, but it's not always possible. So there are at times that people get the same map just because someone else didn't play that map.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So it's not necessarily weighted in there. It's just a factor of how the game engine tries to.
I mean, there are certain maps that are given lower pool, like Military Airport and Breaking Met. But other than that, there's no such functions to force you into playing the same map. It's just that someone else did not play the other map.
That makes sense. Cool. Well, thanks for answering some of those questions. We'll try to ask a couple more near the end, but let's talk about Operation. It's Meghna, right? Is how you pronounce it, Meghna.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That is actually one of the things we were thinking, the pronunciation, whether everyone would be okay with it. But yeah, for the most part, it seems everyone pronouncing it just fine.
Okay, awesome. So, what is Operation Meghna? I see some really cool maps. I'm gonna switch my view over here so people can see what I'm looking at. I see some really cool maps, and kind of what's the perspective on what Operation Meghna is about? It's not. I know it's not just a content thing. Like, is there a storyline to it, or?
You mean the maps?
Yeah, just in general, like for this update,
Yeah.
what's your goal for this update?
So of course both maps are going to be available in co-op as well, and so they both have storylines included. Um, so with the launch, it's a more it's a bomb situation basically, and it's in the middle of the river Meghna. And also, yes, the boat's name is MV Meghna. It's very typical to have the same name as the river that the boat rides in. So yeah, and that's for map, the launch map. While we didn't give a lot of information on the hospital map, I guess we do have the story written for the most part, which is that the terrorist organization did have a video leaked, just for asking for ransom, in the sense that they wanted their leader to be released from prison, and it's connected with the ruins map. And what happens is, in order to do that, the government basically took the IP address from the video, tracked them down, and now you're in an operation where the prime minister is looking into the situation while you're in the operation, basically. Yeah, so there is a lot of storylines to it, and I guess that is something that we want to incorporate with the co-op cutscenes that we're working on. So yeah, I guess that would be a very story-driven experience.
Awesome. Well, that sounds really exciting. I'm looking at the pictures on stream right now. This ferry map. Oh my goodness, this looks like a nightmare to clear, if I'm being honest, but like in a good way. Like, presents a very unique tactical challenge. I can tell already from all the little rooms and the way you have to move up and down decks.
Some of those rooms would be expanded on, but the thing is, because we have a team of architects, what we do is first we take the whole thing as it is, and then try to see if we can make it more accessible to people so that they're not confused.
Awesome. And is the insert point for the CT side what it looks like on this picture, where they're literally like climbing up the side of a boat, like from a little from a little like Zodiac?
So yeah, they are going to spawn in the boat, and the other spawn would be on the rooftop with a helicopter, which is similar to the bank
That's
map.
super cool. That's gonna be super cool.
Yeah.
And then I see you got 4 new weapons that you mentioned. You've got a sawed-off shotgun, the AS Val, which everyone loves. For some reason, I'm not a big fan of it, but everyone loves it. Excuse me, the Bison, and then the 5.7, which is really cool. Are you gonna have is there in the future, are you guys planning on integrating armor and armor penetration into the game?
So there is, by default, there is a certain armor that the players wear. I'm talking about the CT side in this case. So they do have an extra layer of armor on them whenever, even in PvP, and also, of course, in co-op. So for the moment, we're keeping it simple just to make sure that it's balanced. But maybe in the future, if we find a balanced way to incorporate more armors, we may do that. Definitely.
Well, that's really cool to hear, because when you talk about something like an AS Val or a 5.7, obviously like a lot of what makes those weapons powerful is their ability to penetrate armor. So I thought that might be an aspect that you guys are going towards. I noticed a lot of new weapons for the terrorist side. Is there a reason why you're going 3-in-1?
So because we are moving the MP7 from the terrorist side to the counter-terrorist side, we're giving in more options for the terrorist side to begin with. The other reason for this is because we at least for now, what we're planning is to give, just like similar to the CT side having limitations to their weapons, we want to do the same for the defender side to balance it out a lot more, and giving this increased weapon pool would aid that feature.
Cool. Well, I think that's one of those things that obviously you gotta figure out as you go along. But I'm sure that you guys will put it in there, test it, balance it, and make sure everything's good to go. So I see also more attachments, which everyone loves more attachments to weapons. Nobody wants less attachments, I'll say that. So I see you got pressure pads, which I think that's one of those things that very few games get the idea of, like pressure pads and those sorts of things. And I don't know who you're working with, but I know the folks that I've talked to that have done this sort of work in the real world. They talk all the time about how in video games everyone just runs around with lasers on and all the time and everything like that, and how unrealistic it is. So I think it's really cool that you guys are adding in stuff like that.
Yeah, it definitely does add to the experience, and actually allows the players to have have it set up the way they want it to be.
Yeah, exactly. Like we talked about, like you guys seem to be very focused on allowing people to play the game they want to play, rather than forcing them into some box that they have to do, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I also see like stuff like not being able to see IR sight point, being able to put on like the little MVG thing looks really cool. I'm pretty excited about that. I know it's like a minor thing, but it adds a lot to the realism, and I think it's gonna add a lot for the folks that do want to use 0 hour for like machinima and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Grim says if you guys need help with the laser stuff, definitely hit him up. He's got some ideas on how that works from his background.
So right now, one of the things that we would really love to have is proper scaling for the for all the attachments, basically. So yeah, if Grim wants to send in some of the pictures of his IR sight attached to his M4, maybe.
There you go, Grim. What do you got, Grim? You gonna send it to him or what? And then obviously the sounds we've talked
That's
before.
like putting him on the spot.
He loves being on the spot. That's where he lives the best. And we talked about sounds before, about how for your that you guys are looking to hire another SFX artist, right now.
Yeah. We're not exactly hiring because we didn't find any locally. So what we're doing is we're freelancing at the moment.
That makes sense. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And what's funny is that I know that there was a time where when the game first released, the sounds were obviously needed to be mastered or whatever. But I feel like the sounds is still in a good spot now. I feel like, and maybe it's because I'm more of a co-op player versus a PvP player, but I feel like the sounds are in a relatively good spot. So I'm maybe you're getting that feedback from people who have a different use case than me, but I like it. I don't know. I really like where they're at. I feel like they're up to par
Um,
with the rest of the gameplay.
the way I guess I can explain how the sound is going to improve is, um, let's take M4 for the moment, which is if you fire the M4 automatic, um, the fire rate does not match up with the real life fire
Mm-hmm.
rate, right?
Okay.
The main reason for that being is the sound, like the SFX that we use for it. Um, so the way it's used is we have a single fire SFX, and that plays with each bullet. Now, if you think about it, if there is 600 bullets, 600 bullets per minute, you understand that the amount of sound that would be created from that, if it was just that one SFX playing over and over again, you understand that it's gonna sound very bad,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so with this new update, what we're doing is we're having states for these sounds so that it does not overlap, or it does not create a unrealistic sound experience from these weapons when you're firing auto. Um, so and also making sure, and also this would uh, you know really help us bring the realistic aspect to the game, in the sense that we can bring the actual fire rate to each weapon with this update. So meaning that with the next update, M4 would have a faster fire rate. And yeah, so I guess that's the main reason we are improving the sound. And the way it's improving is because of the states, and have making sure that you would understand its direction, or whether it's coming from outside or inside, would definitely add on to the authentic, and the immersion level, basically. um, and one thing that is,
Reinforcements dropping
it's
in.
not announced yet, but something that we plan to add is, um, you would be, I know that there's a word for this. um, I just don't know how to pronounce it, which is tinnitus, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Tinnitus is right.
Yeah, yeah, that is something that we want to add for the terrorist side, so that you know they don't prefer using auto firing.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, cool. So yeah, so if they're firing, they're not walking around with headsets on like the CTs are. So if they're just blasting full auto on their AKs or whatever, then they're gonna have some reduced hearing.
Yeah, yeah.
They're gonna have to take the earplug option in their inventory menu.
It, yeah, I guess at some point we need to add more of those options, so that maybe you have to select between something.
Yeah, so moving on to some of the other features I see here. There's so many in this update that you guys are planning to bring. The co-op cutscenes and voices, I think that's pretty cool. We kind of talked about that before. The ability to like create a narrative, not even outside the game, but inside the game as you're loading into it. Having people voice over your cutscenes, sort of tell a story. Who are you guys getting to do those voices?
So we are hiring professional voice actors from, locally, um, to basic. For at the moment, what we're thinking about is more authenticity than full professionalism, because in our country they wouldn't speak, you know, um, perfect English
Mm-hmm.
or anything like that. But rather, what we're trying to do is, um, trying to bring how they would speak in the real life situations, and bring it to the game, while still keeping that South Asian effect to it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's gonna be really cool. And I like the voice commands for people without mics. I think that's pretty essential. And a lot of the tactical games, I think, just assume everyone's going to have microphones, and when they don't, they're kind of screwed. So I think the ability
Yeah.
to do voice lines, I know it's an extra layer for you guys to work on, but I think it adds a lot, especially in the PvP game
Yeah.
modes. I mean, obviously co-op, I generally get to choose who I play with, so I'll just not choose somebody if they don't have a mic, or just understand they're not gonna. But I feel like in PvP, especially with like quick match, a lot of times you don't get a whole lot of option of who you play with, and your team can really be at a deficit if somebody can't communicate with you at all.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's also accessibility, like we talked about before, with the ability to, if somebody doesn't speak very good English and they're playing with people who do speak English, or if you're on a team of people who all say speak Spanish or something like that, are you guys going to localize those in the future, those voice commands, so that if I'm speaking
Possibly
English,
in the future.
I understand not at first, but because I know that's something that like Sandstorm uses, they like to localize everything. So like if it might be the same voice line, but the text that's shown in the game for your character is localized to whatever their local language is.
Yeah.
Which I know.
We do have plans to add subtitles to, maybe something that the suspect is saying, or maybe something in the cutscene. So there would be subtitles for that. Still, like, that is something that we're still working with. We are not sure exactly to what extent we would do the localizations. At least, because of our limited experience with localization at the moment, basically. But yeah, with time, possibly we would do a bigger deal.
Cool. And this has been asked several times, so I'll bring it up, and I think I know what the answer is. But Durag and Grim both asked if you're going to let content creators do some voice lines for you.
At the moment, the plan is only to do it with those professional voice actors from the people that we're hiring locally. But yeah, if we do it freelancing way, I mean, we would definitely announce it.
Absolutely, yeah, and that makes sense to me. I know that we talked earlier about your game studio being like kind of more or less a first for being in the country, and I respect the idea of trying to keep a lot of the work in country with local folks that you can reach out and touch and make. I understand why you wouldn't necessarily be looking for like a bunch of Americans to voice act your game.
The main reason for it is not exactly the hiring capability. It's more about keeping the thing is, everything takes place in Bangladesh, and we don't want to make it that everything sounds American. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. It's that's one of the things that makes the game really cool to me is I feel like I'm playing in it like an operator in Bangladesh. Like I don't feel like I'm. A lot of games, it's like Americans going somewhere and doing stuff, or Brits going somewhere. I feel like the ability to sort of feel like you're in the shoes. There's similarities obviously between all of these units across the world, but specifically this feels very grounded in a locality that is unique to me. So I definitely understand that.
And the current localization was not even done with professionals. It was just a bunch of developers here doing the voices. But yeah, that's what we plan on changing, basically, making sure that we replace these with professionals.
Cool. Moving forward, ability to shoot out lights. Oh my god, that is a huge thing for a lot of folks. That comes up almost every game where there are lights and it's nighttime. The ability to shoot them out. Now, in a lot of games, they say that the lighting engine can't take it. That's a swipe at a particular game that I won't mention what the name of it. How are you guys handling the lighting changes that happen when you shoot out lights?
So first of all, our game does not take place in a baked map. It is real time. So every light that you do see is, something that's running in real time. To add more to it, which is the ambient lighting or the reflection, all of these play together to do the overall lighting for the game. And this is actually under me at the moment to replace the old lighting system with the new lighting system, and it's beating the shit out of me at this point, which is so at the moment in the live version, what happens is each light was placed differently or without an actual light fixture. the light was basically added in while the level was being made to, you know, maybe because we had a certain idea for it, and then the fixtures were added in later just to accompany those lighting. Um, so what we're doing with this update is we're adding fixtures for each lights first, and making sure that, you know, the ones that we did miss, we're finally adding fixtures for every light there is accountable. And then what the other thing that we're doing is we're making it we or like the system is already made, which is we're incorporating every single light source there is in the game, and then taking it and connecting it with the reflections and the ambient tone. So what happens is, let's say there's a hallway, right? Like a big hall with 6 lights. The darkness or the the I mean, what something that we could simply do is we could just turn off the lights whenever you shoot that light, but it wouldn't create the same effect by just simply doing that much, because then there's reflections that are still on, and in the reflections you can see that the light is still on. Like, there's a lot of things like that, just because everything needs to work together, otherwise it's not going to mix and match. So the system that we made is the reflection probe and the ambient would take account of the lights that it's associated with and decrease or increase itself based on that. So let's say if there is in that hallway, if there is 6 lights, if if the initial value for the overall brightness of that room is 1, if I let's say I shoot 2 of the lights away, then at least it's gonna be the value would change to 0.7, and like it would be that much darker, basically making it appropriate to each area. I'm not sure if my technical wording is right in this case.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and I'm really surprised that your lighting engine can handle that in real time, because I know a lot of lighting changes in maps can make it it can make it difficult
Yeah.
at runtime to constantly be updating the lighting mappings. So that's really cool. Um, okay, and then the last couple of features that you've talked about in Operation Meghna, inventory system looks pretty cool. You think? I mean, this is a pretty big change to add into this. Do you think you'll get this in the first phase of the update?
Um, Probably not in the first phase, but by the time we're closer to the update, it's gonna be out for testing for sure.
Well, that's awesome. And so it said you'll basically be able to grab any of the equipment or weapons that are on them, and also the ability to grab magazines and even change the ammo, but like from
Yeah.
their magazines to your magazines. That's a really cool system that I think only a handful of games have in them. So this will be
That's
really
I mean,
nice.
to be plain simple, that's something, um, uh, that's something that a lot of people do face issues in 0 hour, which is um, while playing certain maps specifically, and a lot of people have this habit of reloading their mags a lot, and so what happens is by the end they have many mags, which with very few ammo in each one of those.
Hmm.
So what we're doing with this is basically you'd have the ability to take out some of those other ammo from the other mags that are low, and then just make the current mag fuller, or
Hmm.
filled in basically. um, and to be completely frank, it is something that we've seen do in EFT,
Hmm.
because we love playing EFT as well, and uh, being able to put the ammo from one mag to the other is something that we find vital for this kind of situation. Of course, not during action, but when you're out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I play a lot of Arma 3
Yeah,
specifically, and that's one of the things that like a common mod that everyone uses, Ace. It's a big aspect of it. It's the
yeah,
ability to
yeah.
reload your mags, because same thing, right? Over the course of an hour long operation, you can you can have 5 or 6 rounds and a number of mags. So I don't know if there's another game that's as we'll say tight and close in CQC wise that's doing this right now. So I think that's a really cool feature to add, and I like your mock-up of how that's going to look. I'm pretty excited about that. I think that'd be a big change.
Yeah.
Okay, and then AI stuff, AI improvements. You did mention that you're looking at AI teammates, but it's probably not going to make it into this update. You're mostly focused on the behaviors of the enemies. Is that correct?
Yep.
Awesome. And we didn't mention the hostages and any of the non-fighting actors in the game. Is that something you're going to change their AI as well? Because right now they're just basically sort of sit still until you tell them to follow you, and then they sit still again, right?
Yeah, that is something that we still feel like it needs to be improved by a lot. Other than that, there's another thing that we do want to do, which is add more characters in the sense of civilians and not exactly hostages.
Mm-hmm.
Because currently the hostages that you are extracting are like vital to the missions. But in the future, what we do want to do is add in more side characters in the missions, meaning maybe a civilian that just lives on the other building who's just bypassing, or something where in this case, I mean, this is not exactly a spoiler alert. In the Cafe 14 map, the doc is supposed to have a wife, and that is something that we're still working on and adding for in the future.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now I don't know what it's like in if this fits the locality or not. Is there any possibility of having characters that are maybe ambiguous as to whether they're on the terrorist side or not, like an armed civilian or something like that?
I'm not sure if I got that.
So like so right now you've got obviously the terrorists and the counter-terrorists, and then you've talked about civilians. Is there any plans to have civilians that are maybe a little bit you're not sure if they're a terrorist or not, like maybe they're armed or they're the clothing is close enough, that sort of thing, as you add in additional civilians into the map?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, okay. And Durag asked if you guys are working on third-person animations. There is on your update, which, by the way, !0 hour for the update in chat. They are talking about there's updated models.
Yeah, the third person animations are still working. They're still working on it. With this update, we did not get to completely improve on all animations. But yeah, they're still being worked on.
Awesome. Grim wants to know if we can have it to where we can grab the hostages and lead them directly rather than relying on their AI to follow you. Is that something that you guys are looking at?
Hopefully soon.
I know that presents a unique challenge when you have to lock 2 character models together to move together. It's done very awkwardly in Arma.
Yeah, especially because there's always ways of I don't know, but maybe clipping the hostage through the wall behind you, and all kind of stuff like that. Because this is something that we did try before, did not go very well. But yeah, we're still working on finding ways that we can do it properly.
Awesome. And then Dots asked a question that was going to be my last question about the update. That the update on Steam, that's for the entire update, not just the first half, right?
That's part 1. There's going to be part 2.
So that's just for part 1. All those changes are you're going to get in there by August?
Yeah, and part 2 is also changes by August.
That's also by August? Oh my goodness. Like, this is what I'm talking about. I don't know if you ever sleep or if your folks that work for you ever sleep, but the amount of content you guys are getting out is just staggering. It's a huge amount to be putting out by August. I mean, obviously August isn't right around the corner, but in development time, that's not very long. Yeah. They think you're a god. They think you're literally you've been handed down by some sort of deity to mankind to provide tactical games at an alarming rate.
It's all thanks to the team, really.
Well, I'm really impressed by that. This update is looking, I mean, just super awesome. I've already in love with the game. Obviously, I think I've expressed my gratitude to you guys and what you guys are doing for this game. I think it's a breath of fresh air in a lot of ways. I think it's people coming in, and you're taking a type of game that exists already, but like a SWAT style or
Yeah.
there are games that are like this, but this game then just blows past them in terms of features, in terms of concepts. Obviously, the map design is amazing, and it feels very real, right? Like the immersion level is so high when you're playing the game because I really feel like now that you said that you had architects or architectural designers on the team, that makes a lot of sense because it doesn't feel like it's a level that you designed and then put like, oh, this is a house or whatever. It feels like it's a house that you've then transformed into a level. I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah. Um, well, so one thing that I do want to add is that at the end of the day, the main reason we are able to give more out is simply for the first part of the um, announcement that we wrote, which is thanking the community. At the end of the day, that really helps out motivate people, and motivation is something that keeps you running for a long time.
Absolutely. And one thing I meant to do when we first got on, but forgot to. I want to congratulate you guys on hitting that 2K player
Thanks,
player group.
Josh. Yeah.
For me, I don't know how anyone feels it, but I've always felt like the 1800 to 2000 player mark is a healthy ecosystem for an indie game. Like once you hit that level, I
Yeah.
feel like it's relatively self-sustaining. And
Yeah.
and the fact that you guys have hit that this early on in your journey with the game just speaks volumes of how excited people are for it. And internationally, I've noticed this game is caught on in places where most of these tactical games don't, and I think that's really cool that you guys have gotten to that point.
Yeah, we're really thankful for that.
So just a couple other questions that I want to ask, and then I got to close up shop here because I have my real life job that I have to go to, sadly. Talking about the voice comms, are you guys going to add in a local voice so that it's emanating from the player instead of only radio?
Yeah, it's gonna be from the player, basically. And if you're, when you're close to it, it's gonna be directly from the player. But when you're not close to the player, it's like if it's your teammate who's, let's say, a little far away, it's gonna sound from the radio.
Oh, okay. So it's gonna stay as one button, but it's gonna be local and radio. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, basically depends on your distance, and it basically would change. Maybe let's say one mate is right beside you and the other mate is very far away. The guy who's very far away is going to hear it through radio, while the guy next to you would hear it as a voice.
Okay, cool. So rather than do separate buttons, you're gonna have kind of one button.
Yeah.
Okay, that's an interesting take on it. That'll be interesting to see in game. And Grim wants to know if you guys are gonna do animations for push to talk, like grabbing your radio or something like that.
No plans as of yet, but if we see, you know, it adds to the authenticity of the situations and immersion, sure, at some point.
I think Grim will send you pictures of himself in his underwear again, doing the keying the mic. That's a local thing, is that he was in his underwear when he sent you those videos. I've seen the videos. I know he wasn't, but I like to pretend that that's what he does. He's like, you guys see the physique, so you can properly model it, right? I'm sure that's not embarrassing at all. One of the questions I want to ask you, so how do you guys feel for 0 Hour? Do you feel like it is a PvP game with a co-op mode, a co-op game with PvP mode, or you feel like you're really focused on both?
At the moment, we are focused on both, but like if you think about it, technically it is a PvP game with a co-op mode, just because it started with PvP.
Okay, so that's kind of the core focus is the PvP game, and you just happen to have slapped an awesome co-op mode onto it.
Yeah, but at the moment, however, we are focusing on both modes equally.
And that makes sense, right? Like probably the longevity for different games have
Yeah.
different player bases that they appeal to. I think the longevity for this one's probably more related to the PvP. But I'll say as a co-op
Yeah.
player, it's in a good spot already. So I'm glad that you guys are giving a lot of love to the co-op scene as well.
I mean, to be honest, co-op was planned in from the beginning. It's just that um, we were not sure exactly how we could, you know, make it work properly with our game. I guess it's through the feedback that we had in update part 3 that we understood exactly how the co-op mode should go. And yeah, after that was done, and through the community feedback and more, and even through analytics, most players play co-op
Oh
than
yeah.
they play PvP. So, but yeah, at the end of the day, we try and keep focus on both.
Awesome. Scott wants to know, are the defenders gonna have radio too, and what happens when they get tinnitus and they lose their hearing?
Yeah, they will also have the radio effect if the teammate is too far. And when they do get tinnitus, basically they won't be able to hear for, I guess, few seconds until they regain again. But of course, if you keep shooting even after, you know, losing your ears, I guess you're still going to basically add on to that. So the longer you shoot, the longer it's gonna stay.
That makes sense. Yeah. Um, there's some questions about high and low ready. Are there plans to make it more controllable for how you're doing high and low ready? I know it's automatic right now.
At the moment, there's no plans for it, but we definitely do this. Like, we definitely do see the um, importance of adding it into the game.
Yeah, and that's one of the games that obviously a lot of folks that like your game also play is Ground Branch, and that's one of the key tenets obviously in there is a high, low, and medium ready system. Obviously a different mentality on that game, I think, in what they're going for. Both games are great, no comparisons from coming from me, but I didn't know if that was sort of something that you're looking at. I'm excited for when that gets in there, but I know that's more of a co-op and immersion factor, I think, than it is necessarily a gameplay feature. So I could see why that's not necessarily first on the chopping block.
Yeah.
Are there any plans for any less than lethal weapons like paintball guns, beanbag shotguns, that sort of stuff?
We do have plans to add tasers. While we still don't see the reason to have it in PvP, but we're hopefully going to have it in co-op.
Okay, awesome. Scooby's asked a couple times, is there ambient occlusion in the game, meaning like sound occlusion from various rooms and stuff like that?
We did have it in the beginning, but we removed it just because it wasn't exactly doing the game justice.
Is that part of your sound
Because
effects overhaul?
like whether it's gonna come with this update.
Yeah, yeah.
No, we're not exactly adding sound occlusion. What we are doing, however, is making different sounds for each stats, just to give you a better idea of where the players are, or the suspects in this case.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Dread has asked, do you hire people from outside the country? I think we kind of got the answer on that your plan is to basically stick with local hires for as much as you can, right?
Yeah, we just freelance whenever we don't have any other choice.
Okay.
And there is one thing that I like. We are still thinking of. Maybe we can get more more perspective on this from the audience, which is we do have plans on making it that when you start the game, it's gonna start with a safety mode on your weapon, and then you have to switch to, single fire or auto fire manually.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
And this is mostly just because I mean, we're aware of a lot of people who, I guess, as soon as the game starts, they either have their left click clicked and they end up shooting their teammate, by accident. But I guess it would make more sense to have it on safety.
Yeah, that's an immersion mode factor, right? Like as somebody who's in the army, they always teach you that you only move with your weapon on safe, and then as you bring it up, you switch from safe to semi to fire, and then you put it back on safe before you move again. So I think that wouldn't be much different for people clearing all this.
Yeah.
And then Blue Meister really wants this question answered. Are you gonna publish the music from Hotel Trouble? Because they really want
Yeah, that's something I've been hearing a lot, and
it.
honestly, I did not think that it would, get that much attention. Um, One thing I do want to address from your chat is someone talked about the AIs,
Mhm.
not staying in the same floor and going to the other floor when engaged. Um, the thing is, that does not exactly happen for your engagement. At the moment, the reason the AIs would switch floors just to go at you, specifically in Embassy, I guess, is if you turn off the lights, the AIs try to go towards it and maybe switch it back on.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. That's an important distinction.
Yeah, but yeah, of course, at the end of the day, it doesn't always like not all the AIs would actually go for it. It would be, a certain group of people, but as soon as, if they see that there's too many people dying, they try and stay back. But of course, not it's not gonna work every time. Otherwise, the game's gonna be very predictable.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I think we've gotten through pretty much all the questions that I had, and like I said, I'm running short on time for this interview, but I just want to give you the floor. If there's anything else you want to say to chat, I'm recording this for a podcast. So if there's anything you want to put out there about yourself, your company, the game, that you want to say to your fans.
Um, I don't really have much to say in terms of ourselves, but there is one thing that we are thinking about, and I guess some of them already know this, maybe. Um, we do have a plan for something very interesting. Um, Something that we feel might be very something attractive for a lot of people, which is adding attack dogs.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and of course, for PvP, it would be with limited use. With co-op, you can use it with each round. I mean, each mission playthrough, you would be able to use the attack dog. But of course, only one person could bring it in. Um, However, the catch is the dog is something that you have to grow manually, meaning something that the dog would basically, let's say, start as a puppy that stays in your training ground, that grows over time, and you can slowly start using it and teaching it tricks.
Oh my God, I the pogs that are happening in chat. That sounds amazing. That sounds like a really cool system. And not only is it like a cool idea, it's totally unique. It's like a Neopet for your tactical Neopet.
And if the dog does die in your mission, basically you won't be able to use it until you revive it back in your training ground. I mean, training ground itself would get a lot of rework, but of course the dog itself would have its own space where you can,
That
But yeah, these kind of things we feel would add a lot to it.
that is a really really cool idea, and I'm really appreciative that you just shared that with us because my brain's run on overdrive now for how cool that would be. My first thought though, when you said that, is and there's a question. It's very very important. Can you pet the dog?
Yes.
Okay, you can pet the dog. Yes. There's a Twitter account that I follow that I check in on every day. It says, "Can you pet the dog?" At Can you pet the dog? And I want to make sure that you guys show up as yes. In 0 hour, you
So
can pet the
it,
dog.
so here's the thing. Don't take any of these as promised features because
Oh, of
this is
course.
something that it's still something that we're testing internally or even test um, adding on to this idea is still very conceptual at the moment. Um, but like we do have a lot of cool ideas that what we think is while this might not be with this update, hopefully with update very soon, which is this growing up this attack dog itself and then having its different states, being able to name the dog, and also our idea is maybe have it voice activated in the sense that you can call out the dog. um, Having these various systems, while it's still not something that we added in, we're certainly confident that we would be able to do it. It's just that it would take a lot of time before we can you know have it in.
Well, if the feedback that I'm seeing is any indication, there is a large desire for dogs, and the idea, like you said, about voice activation like that, you're blowing my mind right now, because in a world where we constantly deal with the same rehash game released over and over and over again, like these are features that you're talking about that would a whole game would be built around if you're gonna put into your game that already exists in tactical game, like the immersion factor, the realism factor, but also just the cool factor of that is out of this world. And I totally get that you can't say for sure it's gonna happen, but you know, it better, because now I want a dog, so now I can't get out of my head. Now my assumption is it's gonna happen. It better happen, please make it happen.
Yeah, the thing is, it's being worked on.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I can say. It's not like that. It's an idea that we're just thinking. It's being worked on. So there's that.
Well, that is so cool. And with that, Dogagachi, everyone's calling it. With that said, and my mind blown, and my, you know, not that I have any faith that has to be restored, because I'm already super stoked for this update, but even being that much more stoked for the future of this game, I'm gonna have to close this one up and wrap it up. I really want to say thanks to you for coming on and talking about your company, talking about the vision for the game, obviously the updates and specific features, and taking questions. You know, I know that can be a little bit disjointed, a little difficult to do that. So I really appreciate you being willing to hop on here. Sorry about the time thing. I'm glad that we got that worked out. But it's been an awesome interview, and I really appreciate you coming on. And big thanks out to the chat. I hope that you guys got something out of it. And yeah, go buy 0 Hour right now. Don't wait for a sale. It's already $12. Buy it now. It's worth it in its current state. The updates are only going to make it better. But right now, it's a great game. All of your favorite content creators are playing it right now for a reason. It's a really enjoyable game with a bright future ahead. So. With that, we're gonna close up. Thanks, M7. I really appreciate it, man.
Thanks, man. Cheers.
Bye.